When a crime occurs, our traditional justice system typically relies on three rigid questions: what law was broken, who broke it, and what punishment is deserved. This is the retributive model. When officers arrive at a scene, their priority is identifying a suspect and collecting evidence to satisfy the law. Residents are often sidelined, limited to supplying testimony before the state takes over. Safety produced in this way leaves the community as a bystander. Moving toward co-produced safety means treating the neighborhood as an active resource, where residents and the justice system work together to resolve the underlying conflict. This shift is captured in the restorative model. It replaces the old questions with three new ones: who was harmed, what do they need, and whose obligation is it to make things right? This framework views crime as a violation of specific people and the relationships between them. Moving beyond a single point of punishment requires a broader perspective. We have to build a continuum of justice, a spectrum of responses that begins long before a harm occurs and continues long after a sentence is served. The first phase of this continuum is upstream. These are proactive strategies designed to stop harm from occurring in the first place. Crime prevention through environmental design, or CPED, focuses on the physical world. By improving lighting, opening up sightlines, and maintaining spaces, communities can naturally reduce the opportunities for crime to take root. Other strategies treat violence as a contagious phenomenon. In this model, violence isn't viewed as a series of isolated choices, but as a behavior that spreads through a community like a disease. This is where credible messengers come in. These are trusted community members who step in to mediate disputes and interrupt cycles of retaliation before they turn deadly. They provide a moral voice that law enforcement often cannot reach. Upstream prevention also targets early intervention. By handling adolescent mistakes through education and mentoring, rather than immediate arrest, schools and families can prevent a young person's first contact with the system from becoming a permanent trajectory. These partnerships braid formal systems with informal community networks, filling the social spaces where violence would otherwise grow. When harm does occur, we enter the midstream phase. This is the point where the system can route appropriate cases away from conventional prosecution. For addiction or mental illness, the timeline splits into problem-solving courts, moving past penalties to address underlying drivers. This is therapeutic jurisprudence, designing the legal process to promote well-being, with judges and providers working as a team. Restorative justice offers another midstream path. It brings a willing victim and offender together, with a facilitator, to ensure the victim is heard and the offender takes genuine responsibility for the damage they caused. Sitting across from a victim and hearing the full impact of one's actions is often more demanding for an offender than a standard plea bargain. It requires a level of direct, personal accountability that a traditional courtroom rarely asks for. Successful midstream strategies move the focus of the courtroom from processing a case file to addressing the specific needs of the person who was harmed. Finally, we move downstream. Each year, hundreds of thousands of people return to their communities after being incarcerated. Many face collateral consequences, legal and practical barriers to housing, employment, and licensing that persist long after a sentence is over. These obstacles make reintegration nearly impossible, driving reoffending. But reentry is a community enterprise. Employers, faith groups, and families provide stability, breaking the cycle of recidivism. A community that supports those returning home is making a direct, measurable investment in its own safety. Innovation carries risks. The history of justice reform includes many programs that sounded promising, but were later found to be ineffective or even harmful when subjected to rigorous study. To move past slogans, programs must be judged by 4 standards. First, evidence. Does research prove it works? Second, fidelity. Is it delivered exactly as required? Third, equity. Does it serve the whole community? And fourth, sustainability. Is the funding built to last? These community-based approaches are not a replacement for the traditional system. They provide a range of options matched to the seriousness of the harm and the needs of those involved. By building this continuum, we stop treating the community as a problem to be policed and begin empowering it as a partner in producing safety.